So with all this talk about Pantera in the news, let's talk about their bass player, Rex Brown. He only created one solo album called Smoke on This. This album is actually celebrating its 5-year anniversary, and it was released on July 20th, 2017. So we all know Rex Brown as the bass player for Pantera. He has always been dedicated to Pantera while they were active, but he did do something different during that time. He helped out Jerry Cantrell with his solo album, Boggy Depot. After Pantera broke up, he played on a few Down albums with Phil Anselmo, and he did some other stuff with Crowbar and Kill Devil Hill. But he only released one solo album that's called Smoke on This, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So on this album, Rex Brown is on lead vocals, and he also plays bass and guitar. But he has some other people. He has Lance Harville on lead guitar, Joe Shattuck on rhythm, and Johnny Kelly on drums. Now, what does this album sound like? It doesn't sound anything like a Pantera album. It is basically a hard rock album, a lot of southern rock on it, there's some grunge on it, a lot of like 70s rock, there's guitar riffs, they mix keyboards in it on many songs. And it's just very different. Sometimes they sound like Leonard. So anyway, the album is about 40 minutes long, there's 11 songs, so let's talk about them. So the first song is called Lone Rider. So Rex Brown opens the album, he says like smoke on this, and you do hear a gun cocking, so it's pretty cool. It's a hard rock song, it has a dirty, distorted guitar sound. Rex has this like deeper vocal style, you know, it really lends well to southern rock. The main riff is fairly repetitive, it does make the song memorable, and it's a good start to the album. Then Crossing Lines is the next song. It's a little kind of like a sludge song, maybe a little slower. There are some keyboards into this mix in this one. It's a nice classic rock feel, lots of short guitar licks mixed into this song. Then Buried Alive. This one is like a grunge song. Has these like clean guitars playing a tone that can be compared to something like Smashing Pumpkins, or I'm thinking like the first Chris Cornell solo album, something like that. It has like this 90s clean tone, but the song moves along and alternates between the clean and like these dirty, distorted guitars. It's a slower, emotional type of song. Has those like heavy, dirty riffs. It's a nice song. It mixes a little of that like atmospheric, psychedelic rock and some hard and heavy southern rock. Then this Train song. This was one of the singles. This is probably the most popular and recognizable song from the album. It's catchy. It reminds me of 70s hard rock. It's a cool guitar solo, and I like that one. And Get Yourself Alright. This one sounds a little different. It has like a Middle Eastern sounding guitars and rhythms. Now, this song reminded me of something from like the grunge era, but Rex Brown does keep his signature style. It still has that dirty southern hard rock feel to it. Then there's Fault Line. This is a ballad. It's mostly acoustic guitars with chords and guitar strumming. You hear some keyboards in the mix. And the song closes with a piano outro. I thought this one was a nice change of pace. It has some 70s rock influences. Maybe it reminds me a little of like the Allman Brothers. It's a good song, nice change of pace. Then What Comes Around. This was another good song. Reminds me of 70s classic rock. They have some nice vocal harmonies in this one. They mix in some keyboards, there's some piano parts. I think this one had a really good mix. It's a little softer than the other ones, but you do still hear the distorted guitars, and this is one where Rex Brown's bass playing stands. Then there is Grace, and this one's a little different. It's like psychedelic, space rock. More closer to a 70s type of rock song. It's very mellow. There are lots of cool atmospheric sounds, some nice guitar playing. Pretty cool keyboards in the mix, and this one has a nice drum sound, and I like the different like vocal effects used in the song. So Into You. So they bring back that harder rocking sound. So it has that just dirty, distorted hard rock riff. You really hear Rex Brown play some cool bass lines. You know, that sound really comes out in the song. And there's some harder sounding vocals, but they also incorporate some like organ sounds into the mix, so it still retains that 70s rock. It's one of those like endings where you think it's going to end, but it really doesn't. They play this like hard rock riff. It's kind of reminding me of like You Really Got Me by the Kinks. Then it goes into like this heavy blues rock instrumental, and it continues to the end of the song. So that was pretty cool. Then there's Best of Me. Now, when you first start listening to it, it's very soft, psychedelic, just very atmospheric. You think it's going to be a very mellow song, but then after a minute and a half, it kicks in with like a harder rocking guitar riff. It's another song, kind of balances the heavy and the light, because the song keeps going back to that like 70s style classic rock. I'm thinking like a band like Aerosmith, like that type of rock. I do like the sound mix in the song. It's just a nice balance of that organ sound with some lightly distorted guitarists. The final song is called One of These Days. This one is pretty cool. It has a mellow kind of sound to it, and I really like the tone. It's kind of like a darker tone. So in the intro, they do these like clean guitars with these arpeggios being played. But then they have these like distorted guitars that are kind of like a little lower in the mix. Then halfway through the song, Rex Brown is singing in these very emotional lyrics. And there's one part of the song with no guitars or drums, just like this like droning organ sound in the background. And it's just very cool how it sounds. Sometime around the middle of the song, it kind of goes back to like those southern rock roots. And a guitar riff reminded me a lot of like Leonard Skinner, and that organ sound was still present in the background. So what did I think of this album? I thought it was a nice change of pace. It's an album that does not sound anything like Pantera, and that's a good thing. You know, a lot of times you want artists to do something different when they do their solo albums. Now, I probably wouldn't have wanted another Pantera album. This is an album for fans of classic rock. So there's some heavy stuff, some kind of grungy stuff. But I think 70s classic rock and southern rock is kind of like the two main subgenres where that is like the focus of the album. It's laid back at times. Songs are very good, and definitely check it out. It kind of offers a very different perspective on what we are familiar with Rex Brown, since we mostly like only know him from Pantera. So, if you enjoyed this, I did another video where I talked about the Pantera reunion. So, if you like that and you want to hear my thoughts on that, check it out. That's right next to me. And please remember, like, comment, subscribe. I will see you in the next one.